In previous videos, we have seen how we can pass the props, also how we can pass the callback function as a props. In both the videos, I have given some exercise to you, like how we can change the header from input field, then to add a employee, and also to delete the employee. So in this video, we are going to implement all these three examples. So let's get started. Here I have an employee list component as it is. In props folder, I am going to create one file, name it create and delete employee example.tsx, and let's create here one functional component, create and delete employee example. It will be a arrow function. So let's create arrow function, and we need to export it. Export default create and delete employee example. And for now, we can just return a div from it. We need to use this component inside app.tsx. So in app.tsx, we have a props example here. Just remove this one and paste here our component name. Press Ctrl dot to import the component. So let's do that. Okay, it is imported. We can now remove this one, props example component. If you see on browser, let's refresh this, nothing is here. Now we are going to add inside our component. So as you have seen, we have a form. In that form, we have a change header input field, we have a name field and designation field and add button. So let's create that. So I am going to create two div. So first div is for form, and second div will be for employee list component. Employee list component. And this is my parent div. So both the divs will be kept side by side. So we can add style for that, like style display flex, and I need to have a gap between two divs. So I can add a gap of 30 pixels. And let's save this one. To add a form here, let's add h2 header. I'm naming it form. And below that, I will create one div. This div will have a label like change header, and after that it will have an input field for that. And below that, I will have one div, a div for add employee. So let me use here h5 tag and give it add employee header. Add one more div, and inside that one field for name. So add here input. This input will be for name, and one will be for designation. Designation, and use the input field to update the input. And below that, we will have a button. This button will name as add employee. So let's save this one and check how it looks. Okay, it looks like this. That's fine. And after that, at this part, in second part, we will show a employee list. Let me import or use employee list here. Employee list component. It is automatically imported. And let's close this. As we have seen, we have some props to pass to the employee list, and that are header, list, and on select. So let's pass the header. I'm just keeping it empty. Then we need a list. So we will need to create a list here. Let me create a list, const default list, which will be of type employee. Let's import this from employee list component. Okay, it is auto imported, and the list will be of employee array. And let's write some data here. I have used array, and inside that I need to use object. It will have id, let's write one, then name. Let's use anything. I am using common name John. Then designation, let's use CEO. Create some few more records. Let me change ID to 2 and this ID to 3. John, Bob, and Nick. Make Bob as manager and Nick will be a lead now. That's fine. And we can pass this default list to our employee list component as a list prop. And now if you see, it is saying like we need to pass on select also. So let's write that on select. If you go to the employee list, the type of on select is like we are getting the list of employees and we don't need to return anything. So let's write that one. We are getting some data and here not returning anything in this way. Correct. We have an employee list component ready now. Let's save this one and go to our browser. Here you can see we don't have header as we have passed empty, so it is not showing anything. But if I add some like list, save it, so it will show a list. So what I need, whatever I type in the change header, that should be used as a header to the employee list component. So let's do that first. As we know, we need a state here. So whenever we change to the header, it should update the state. And once the state is updated, the updated state will re-render the component and that new data will be passed to the child component. For that, let me create here one state, use state. Let's, it is imported, auto imported from React. If not, you will need to write it manually. Okay. And let's take this. As we know, useState returns an array with two values. So I will take this in a header variable, and to set this header, I need one method. So I'm naming it set header, and default value I am going to pass as a empty string. That's fine. So once user put anything here in this change header input, I need to call this set header, which will update the header. So let's write that on change and create one header change event handler function. So let's write const handle header change. As we know, we need to use an arrow function like this, and here we will get event which will be of type. If you don't know the type, what you can do, you can just write at this place like this arrow function parenthesis, let's write event. If you hover on the event, you will get, we need to write a type like change event, which will be of type HTML input element. So we can import the change event from React. Let's go on the top. We can import the change event from the React. So let's define a type at this place for this event as change event. And inside that we can mention it is like HTML input element. And let's pass this handle header change event handler to the on change header input box. That's fine. And inside this event handling function, we can call the set header, and in set header we need to pass the updated value that we get from event dot target dot value. That's fine. Now this will update the header, and this header we can pass to the employee list component. Let me remove this one. Let's add parentheses and use the our variable header. Now let's save this one, jump to the browser. Now type here new header. So whatever will you will type here, it will get reflect on our employee list component. Now we are done with that. Now we are going to focus on add employee part. So first what we need, whatever name added here, that we need to take in a state, and same we need to do for designation also. So let's do that. Let me create two more states. One is for name, and function to update that name is set name, and default value is empty. And second, designation, and let me use create set designation, and its default value is empty. So similar like this function, we create two more. One is for handle name change, and instead of set header, we need to call set name. And at this event handling function, instead of handle header change, we can write handle designation change. And instead of set header, we need to use set designation. Okay, fine. And we need to use this as an on change to the name and designation input field. So how we can do that? On change, inside curly braces, use handle name change. And for designation also, we need to write like on change and pass here handle designation change. So these two inputs will update the states like name and designation. That's fine. Let's save that. That's fine. So we have done like once I type here, it will update the state. Now we need to focus on add employee. So once user click on add button, we need to create an object which will have ID, name and designation, and that employee we need to add in this list. So before that, what I need to create a state for list also. That list I will pass to the employee list component. So once I update that a list state, automatically that will be passed to the employee list. So let's do that. Const list set list use state, and in use state I can pass a default list here. Okay, default list, and this list variable we can pass to the employee list. So instead of default list, we can pass list. Now we need to focus on clicking add employee. So let's write here on click event handler and create a event handler function. So handle add employee. Let's create here event handler, handle add employee. It will be of arrow function. Now we have a name, designation. So let's create one new employee object, so which will be of type I employee, and I employee is an object having ID. For now, just let me write 4, and we need to pass name also. So for this name key, we have data in name, so we can just pass that name. Then we have designation. For designation key, we can pass this designation value. Let's pass that. That's fine. So our new employee object is created. Now what we need to add this new employee inside this employee list. So how we can do is, let's follow the steps. So what we can do, we can just call the set list. So we can pass array, and we can pass the existing list like list. It is a spread operator. Spread operator means it copies the data from the list, and at the end we need to add the new employee. So comma and new employee. So new employee will be added at last. So let's save this one and try here. If I add here Joe, designation will be senior software engineer. Click on add. Here the employee is added. But if you observe in our code, we have given ID hard coded. So if you add one more employee, its ID will be same like a 4. To manage that, what I can create, I need to create one global variable for this component or for this module, which will keep a count of employee. So employee count, and I am assigning it a 3. Why 3? Because by default, in default list, we have 3 records. So it will have 3 value. And this global variable I can use instead of 4, like this. But we need to increment this count by 1. Okay, I instead of const we can use let, because we are going to update this value. Let's save this one and add one more record like jo2 and sec2. Let's click this. Okay, it have printed id same, so let's refresh and add here joe, designation sse. Let's click on add. So id is 4. If I add one more jo2 and sec2, click on add. Here you can find id changed to 5. Let's add here a header like this. As of now, we have done with the 2 examples like change header and add employee. Now we are moving toward the last example, that is a delete employee. So first, instead of select, we need to change it to delete. So let's do that. In employee list, if I come here, we need to change this to delete. As we have changed button name to delete, we need to change the on select callback function name as well. So instead of on select, we need to make it on delete. It will break. So instead of on select, we need to use on delete. And we need to change this handle event handler function name. So handle delete. And let's remove other part. Okay, and now we can use a handle delete at this place like same. This is fine in employee list. If you come to the our example, create and delete employee list component, here it is showing the error, like we don't have any on select now. We have a on delete now. Let's save the employee list and create and delete employee list component also. That's fine. Let me create one event handler function, const handle employee delete. And in this handler, we are getting a employee data, which will be of type I employee. Let me use this one in on delete prop. So in curly braces, I can call handle employee delete, and I can pass the data, whatever we get in this function. So now here we have to write a data or logic to delete employee from the list. So let's follow the steps or what I'm doing. First, I am going to clone a list clone, and that we can do by spread operator again, triple dot from list. So whatever data we have in list, that will come to the list clone or list copy. So whatever changes we do in list copy, it will not reflect to the list state. And in list state, we need to get index of our employee. So here, whatever data we are getting in employee, it will exactly match to the list of the employee. So we can directly pass that employee data in index of. So let's write here, and it will give us a index of that employee. Like if John is on index 1, that will index of will return 1. Now we have index also. To remove the index from a list, we need to use a splice function. So list copy dot splice. To splice, we need to provide index which we wanted to remove and the count and 1. So here 1 means it will remove that index only. If I pass 2, it will remove the 2 records from that index. So in this case, we need to remove only one records. So I am passing one. So data will update in list copy variable itself. Now we need to just call set list, and in set list we can pass list copy variable, which will have updated data. Let's save this one. Let me remove. Let's refresh this one. If I try to delete Bob, it have deleted the Bob. If I wanted to delete John, it will delete John. Let me add one more record, Joe SSE, add the employee, one more Joe 2 SSE2, and I can delete the Nick, Joe, and Joe 2. So this is how we deal with the state and props to perform the CRUD operation also. As of now, we have learned a lot of things like state, props, and how we can pass the callback function as a props. So that's all for this video. I hope you understand how we can use a props, states to perform a CRUD operation or to perform any action on a UI. Let's write your comments in the comment section so I can get some knowledge how you guys are doing.